Today, we're exposing the 9 invisible traps designed to keep you forever broke. Lifestyle creep, the invisible vampire. Lifestyle creep is the phenomenon where your spending rises to perfectly match every single raise you get. It is the reason you can earn $100,000 a year and still feel just as stressed as when you were making $40,000. Think back to your first real paycheck. You felt like a king. You celebrated by buying the expensive frozen pizza, the one with the actual cheese. But then, you got a promotion. Suddenly, that apartment you used to love feels a bit college. So you move into a place with better lighting and a dishwasher that doesn't sound like a jet engine. You deserve it, right? You worked hard. But then your brain starts a little whisper campaign. A person with my title shouldn't be driving a car with a manual window crank. A person with my salary shouldn't be drinking coffee that tastes like burnt dirt. So, the upgrades begin. Faster internet, nicer gym, organic kale that costs more than your first car. None of these choices feel like waste. They feel like progress. You're leveling up. But here's the math your brain conveniently ignores. While your income went up by 20%, your needs magically expanded by 21%. You've traded your hard-earned freedom for a slightly nicer version of the same life. You aren't actually getting richer. You're just inflating the cost of your existence. You've built a bigger, shinier cage, but you're still the one inside it. The trap isn't the stuff. It's the belief that more income equals more freedom. In reality, freedom only exists in the gap between what you earn and what you spend. Lifestyle creep is a professional gap closer. It ensures that no matter how much you make, you stay exactly one paycheck away from a panic attack. And once you've upgraded your life, it is almost impossible to go back. You're addicted to the convenience. You've become a high-maintenance version of yourself that you can barely afford to feed. But hey, at least your neighbors think you're doing great. The minimum payment illusion, bankers' favorite magic trick. Credit card companies are the only people in the world who will let you buy a $1,000 TV and then tell you that you only need to pay them back $25 a month. That's not kindness. That's a trap so deep it has its own zip code. It's called the minimum payment, and it is a masterpiece of psychological warfare designed to turn your one-time purchase into a lifetime subscription to debt. Every month, the statement arrives. You see the big scary number, your balance, and right next to it, the friendly, approachable little number. The minimum payment. Your brain, which is wired for survival and not for calculating compound interest at 24.99%, sighs in relief. I can afford $30, you tell yourself. I'm being responsible. I'm paying my bills. Here is what is actually happening in the dark, math-filled basement of your bank. That $30 payment isn't hitting your debt. It's barely paying for the interest you accrued while you were sleeping. If your debt is a giant, hungry monster, the minimum payment is like throwing it a single grape. It doesn't kill the monster, it just keeps it alive and slightly more annoyed. If you have a $5,000 balance and you only pay the minimum, you aren't paying it off for 3 years. You're paying it off for 23 years. By the time you're done, that $5,000 worth of stuff will have cost you over $15,000. You've effectively bought the bank a Rolex as a thank you gift for letting you buy a couch you already threw out in 2021. The trap works because $30 feels harmless. You think you're managing your debt, but you're actually just farming it for the bank's profit. They want you to stay in that manageable zone forever. They love it when you're reliable enough to pay the minimum, but broke enough to never pay the full balance. And once you've mastered the art of paying the minimum on your cards, you're primed for the ultimate middle-class achievement. Buying a house that you can technically afford right up until the moment you actually have to live in it. House poor, the beautiful financial prison. In the middle-class playbook, buying a house is the ultimate "I've made it" moment. But there's a very thin, very expensive line between owning a home and having a giant brick-and-mortar parasite that happens to have your name on the deed. Welcome to being house poor, the state of owning a gorgeous address while being too broke to buy a light bulb to see it with. It starts at the bank. You walk in, show them your pay stubs, and the loan officer gives you a number. "Congratulations, you're approved for $600,000, he says. You feel like you just won the lottery. You think he is telling you what you can afford. The loan officer is not your friend. He is a math bot programmed to find the absolute maximum amount of blood he can squeeze out of your paycheck without you literally starving to death. So, you buy at the top of your budget. You get the granite countertops, the 3-car garage, and the backyard that requires a full-time staff to maintain. The mortgage payment is tight, but you tell yourself it's an investment, and I'll just eat out less. Then, reality moves in. You realize the mortgage was just the cover charge to enter the club. Suddenly, there are property taxes that go up every time your neighbor paints their fence. There's homeowner's insurance. There's the $800 a month utility bill because heating a vaulted ceiling is essentially paying to keep the clouds warm. And then, the house starts to break. Because houses are just piles of wood and stone that are constantly trying to return to the earth. The HVAC dies in July. The roof decides it wants to be a sieve. The water heater explodes. Every time something goes wrong, it's not a $50 fix. It's a "there goes my vacation fund" fix. Now, you're trapped. You turn down dinner invites because "we're staying in tonight," which translates to "we have $14 in our checking account." You're working 60 hours a week to pay for a house that you only see when your eyes are closed in bed. You aren't a homeowner. You're a high-end security guard for a bank-owned asset. The bank approved you for the maximum you could pay, not the maximum you should pay. You wanted a forever home, but you got a 30-year sentence. And while you're busy trying to fix your leaky roof, a very polished man in a suit is going to try to sell you a wealth-building tool to protect your family, which is actually just another way to set your money on fire. Whole life insurance, the investment scam. If you've ever had a financial advisor, who is actually just a guy you went to high school with named Tyler, sit you down to talk about a private banking strategy or a wealth-building life insurance policy, run. Don't walk. You are being pitched whole life insurance, the financial equivalent of a Swiss Army knife where every tool is a spoon. The pitch sounds like magic. It's life insurance that never expires. Plus, it builds cash value like a savings account that you can borrow against. It's a tax-free legacy. It sounds like you're being a responsible adult. In reality, you're just buying Tyler a new Lexus. Here's the math they don't put on the glossy brochure. Whole life premiums are often 10 times more expensive than simple term life insurance. If a term policy costs you $50 a month to protect your family, the whole life version will cost you $500. Where does that extra $450 go? Well, for the first few years, almost all of it goes to commissions and fees. You're basically funding the insurance company's Christmas party. After that, the cash value starts to grow at a pathetic rate, usually 2 or 3%. Meanwhile, if you had just bought the cheap term insurance and put that extra $450 into a boring index fund, you'd likely be earning 8 to 10%. Over 30 years, that's the difference between having a small pile of change and having a literal mountain of gold. But here's the real kicker, the middle finger hidden in the fine print. If you actually want to use that cash value you've been building, you have to borrow it from the company and pay them interest to use your own money. And if you die, the insurance company keeps the cash value and only pays out the death benefit. It's like putting money into a savings account that the bank gets to keep when you pass away. Whole life isn't an investment. It's a high-fee product designed to be sold, not bought. It's the premium version of a service you could get for pennies on the dollar elsewhere. But hey, at least you feel sophisticated while you're being fleeced. And speaking of feeling sophisticated while losing money, let's talk about the tiny, invisible leaks in your bank account that happen every time you're just too busy to do things yourself. Convenience as a default, death by 1,000 DoorDash fees. In the modern world, you don't go broke from one big mistake. You go broke in $15 increments because you're too tired to boil pasta. Welcome to the convenience trap, the art of trading your retirement fund for a slightly warmer burrito delivered by a guy on a moped. It starts with a long day at the office. You're exhausted. The fridge contains a wilted carrot and a jar of pickles from 2022. You open a delivery app. A $12 pad thai? Reasonable, you think. But then the convenience math kicks in. $4 delivery fee, $3 service fee, $2 small order fee, $5 tip because you're not a monster. Suddenly, that $12 noodle dish is a $26 financial incident. If you do this twice a week, you're spending over $2,500 a year just on the privilege of not standing in your own kitchen. That's a vacation to Hawaii you literally ate in front of the TV while watching a show you didn't even like. But it's not just food, it's the subscription graveyard. You have Netflix for movies, Spotify for music, Disney Plus for nostalgia, and that one random app that tracks your sleep which you haven't opened since Tuesday. Individually, they're only $10. Collectively, they're a $150 a month hole in your boat. You're paying for the potential to watch things, not the actual watching. Then there's the premium tax. You pay extra for express shipping on a package you're going to leave by the front door for 3 days anyway. You buy pre-cut onions because you've decided your time is worth $400 an hour, even though you're just going to spend those saved 5 minutes scrolling through TikTok. Convenience is a drug. The more you use it, the higher your baseline for life becomes. Soon, you can't imagine a world where you have to wait more than 48 hours for a package or wash your own car. The middle class is obsessed with optimizing their lives, but all they're really doing is optimizing the flow of money out of their pockets. And why do we feel the need to have everything perfectly optimized and premium? Because we're all terrified that if we don't, we'll look like we're falling behind the people next door. Performance art for neighbors, the keeping up appearances tax. If we're being honest, half of the stuff you own wasn't bought for you. It was bought for an audience that doesn't actually exist. Welcome to the keeping up appearances trap. It starts with a subtle pang of not enoughness. You see your neighbor, Kevin, pull up in a brand new German sedan with wheels that cost more than your first year of college. Suddenly, your perfectly functional car feels like a horse-drawn carriage. You see your coworker post pictures from a dream villa in Bali, and your backyard patio suddenly feels like a gravel pit. So, you start the performance. You finance the designer handbag because you want people to think you're the kind of person who buys designer handbags. You put the $4,000 luxury vacation on a credit card because the thought of staying home while everyone else is living their best life feels like a social death sentence. Here is the hilarious, tragic irony. Nobody is watching you. Kevin didn't buy that car because he's rich. He bought it because he's just as insecure as you are and he's drowning in a $900 a month payment. Your coworker in Bali is currently crying in the villa bathroom because they just realized they maxed out 3 cards to be there. You are all participating in a giant circular firing squad of vanity where everyone is pretending to be successful by spending the money that would actually make them successful. We buy things we don't need, with money we don't have, to impress people we don't even like. We're so busy trying to look like we have a high net worth that we forget to actually build a high net worth. Status is a zero-sum game. You spend $1 on a logo, and that's $1 that isn't working for your future. You're trading your 60s for a slightly more impressive 30s, all for the sake of a like from a guy you haven't spoken to since 2014. The cost of fitting in is your freedom. But the scariest part isn't the social pressure. It's the fact that while we're busy painting the scenery for our fake successful lives, we're completely ignoring the giant check engine light blinking on our actual financial health. The emergency-free delusion, financial parkour. The average person lives their life as if they have a God mode cheat code enabled. They assume that their car will never break, their teeth will never crack, and their company will never restructure them out of a job. This is the emergency-free delusion, the belief that your budget is a static document and not a target for the universe's archery practice. You've seen this budget. It's a work of fiction. $2,000 for the mortgage, $600 for groceries, $400 for the car, and $0 for everything that is definitely going to go wrong. It balances perfectly to the penny. You tell yourself you're efficient. In reality, you're just one bad pothole away from a financial collapse. Living without an emergency fund isn't optimism. It's a form of high-stakes gambling where the house always wins. When the transmission on your SUV finally decides to retire, or the upstairs shower starts leaking into the kitchen, you don't have a buffer. You have a credit card. This is how an inconvenience for a wealthy person becomes a catastrophe for the middle class. A $2,000 repair bill for someone with savings is a bad Tuesday. For you, it's a $2,000 debt at 24% interest that you'll be paying off for the next 3 years. You're effectively paying a chaos tax on every single problem life throws at you because you didn't have the cash to kill the problem when it was small. We convince ourselves that emergencies are rare, once-in-a-decade events. But if you look at your life, rare events happen every 6 months. The dog eats a sock, the laptop screen dies. Your cousin's wedding is in a city that requires 2 flights and a rental car. These aren't surprises. They are the cost of being alive. The delusion is thinking that your luck will hold forever. You're walking a tightrope over a pit of debt, and you're doing it without a net because you thought the net was too expensive to build. You're trading your peace of mind for a slightly higher balance in your checking account, right up until the moment gravity catches up with you. And when that stress finally hits, when the pressure of the house, the car, and the lack of savings becomes too much, most people don't fix the math. They go for a little walk, right into a shopping mall. Retail therapy and the dopamine debt. When the weight of your mortgage, your car payments, and your lack of a safety net finally starts to crush your soul, you don't call a therapist. You go to the mall. Or more likely, you open an app on your phone at 11:30 p.m. Welcome to retail therapy, the only form of medical treatment that leaves you more sick than when you started. It's a classic feedback loop. You've had a brutal week at work. Your boss is a nightmare and your bank account is a joke. You feel small and out of control. But then, you see it. A sleek, new espresso machine. Or a pair of sneakers that look like they were designed by an alien architect. Clicking buy now sends a glorious hit of dopamine straight to your brain. For 5 seconds, you feel powerful. You feel successful. You feel like the version of yourself that has their life together. You aren't just buying a product, you're buying a tiny, temporary identity. But dopamine has a very short shelf life. The package arrives, you open it, and within 20 minutes, the new thing just becomes another piece of stuff sitting on your counter. The high is gone, but the charge on your credit card is very, very real. Now, the guilt sets in. You realize you shouldn't have spent that $300. Your anxiety about money spikes. And how does your brain suggest you fix that anxiety? By seeking out another hit of dopamine. You start shopping to solve the problems that shopping created. It's like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it because you like the way the flames look for a second. Retailers spend billions of dollars to trigger this exact cycle. They use flash sales to create panic and limited editions to make you feel special. They want you to believe that happiness is just one more purchase away. In reality, you're just medicating your stress with merchandise and paying 24% interest for the privilege. You think you're treating yourself for your hard work, but you're actually just sabotaging the only thing that could actually lower your stress. You're trading your future freedom for a temporary mood boost. And while you're busy chasing that next hit of shopping-induced joy, the clock is ticking on the most valuable asset you will ever own, and you're letting it slip away. The retirement delay, the time thief. The most dangerous lie the middle class tells itself is, I'll start saving for retirement once I'm making real money. You're waiting for some magical future date when your bills will vanish and a pile of extra cash will just appear on your doorstep. Spoilers, that day is never coming. By waiting for the perfect time, you are committing a slow-motion robbery against your future self. This is the brutal math of compound interest. It doesn't care how hard you work. It only cares how long you've been in the game. If you start investing just $200 a month at age 25, by the time you're 65, you're looking at over $500,000. But if you wait until you're 35 to start, just 10 years later, you'd have to invest almost double that amount every month just to end up in the same place. When you're 25, retirement feels like a sci-fi movie that won't be released for decades. You have student loans, entry-level rent, and a social life to maintain. You tell yourself, I'll catch up later. But later brings a mortgage, kids, and those 14 cup holders we talked about earlier. The budget never opens up. It only gets tighter. You think you're being practical by waiting until you can afford it, but you're actually burning the most valuable resource you have: time. A dollar invested in your 20s is like a super soldier. It has decades to replicate and grow. A dollar invested in your 40s is a tired old man who needs a nap. The retirement delay is the ultimate trap because it's the only one you can't fix with a bigger shovel. You can always earn more money, but you can never buy back 1998. Every year you sit on the sidelines waiting for the right moment, the price of your future freedom goes up. You aren't waiting for the right time. You're just waiting to be old and broke. And the reason we stay in this waiting room of financial mediocrity is that we've been told that this is just how life is. But it doesn't have to be. Breaking the script. So, here we are. You've got the upgraded house, the financed SUV, the premium coffee, the subscription for your vitamins, and a credit card balance that could fund a small war. You followed the middle-class script to the letter. You did everything you were told would make you successful. So why does it feel like you're just a very well-dressed person drowning in a shallow pool? Because the script wasn't written for you. It was written by banks, by marketers, and by a culture that benefits from you being a reliable, high-earning debt slave. The system doesn't want you to be wealthy. It wants you to be a good consumer. It wants you to stay in that narrow lane where you earn a lot, spend it all, and keep the gears of the economy turning while you stay perfectly, safely stationary. Breaking the script isn't about moving to a cave and eating beans for the rest of your life. It's about realizing that normal in the middle class is actually broken disguise. To escape, you have to be okay with being the weird one. You have to be the person who drives the 10-year-old car while your neighbors are sweating over their $800 lease payments. You have to be the person who says no to the $30 pad thai delivery because you'd rather own your time than a lukewarm noodle. You have to stop treating your income as a score and start treating the gap between your income and your lifestyle as the only number that matters. Wealth isn't the stuff you buy. Wealth is the things you don't have to do because you have the money to say no. It's the ability to quit a toxic job, to handle an emergency without a panic attack, and to retire while you still have the knees to enjoy it. The traps are everywhere, but they only work if you keep your eyes closed. Once you see the math, the traps lose their power. You aren't falling into these holes anymore. You're choosing to walk around them. So take a look at your bank statement. Find the vampires. Cancel the subscriptions you don't use, stop financing things that lose value, and start buying your freedom back, $1 at a time. It's not as flashy as a new German sedan, but I promise you, it feels a whole lot better.